Welcome back, viewers, to Be Empowered with Ashton. This is part two of market research and underwriting. Let's get started. How do you think the market is trending now? What are your thoughts on it?
Yeah, I think it's very good for a couple of reasons. There's pros and cons to the market today. Um, there's a couple of really good things though, in that buyer demand has waned a little bit in the last year and a half. Um, Whereas like 2 or 3 or 4 years ago, when we were submitting offers on properties in the Dallas area, our offer was coming in. It was like one of 15 to sometimes 30 offers that the seller of the property would get. So there was a lot of really good, fierce competition. Whereas today, right now we're in what are we in? August of 2024. Uh, we're competing against a lot less. So like a property we might submit a LOI on, and we might be one of five LOIs. So there's a lot less competition. Part of that is due, in fact, to the rise in interest rates. So that's made the debt more expensive. We also have seen a rise in expenses on the property. So utilities, repairs and maintenance, all those line items have gone up in price with inflation. Um, so there's because of kind of that hardship that's come up since late 2022, early 2023. Um, that's pulled a lot of people out of the market. So now we're competing against a lot fewer people. A lot of the sellers' prices are starting to come down. They're becoming more open to negotiation. Whereas in 20, like if you try to buy a property in 2021 or
Mhm.
2022, uh, you pretty much were having to meet the seller exactly at their asking price, or you were bidding higher than their asking price. And that was just kind of the way it was because there was so many offers to compete against. Whereas today, as a buyer, you have a lot more room to negotiate. And a lot of sellers, even though they're kind of still stuck on some of their higher asking prices, a lot of them are becoming a lot more reasonable, and open to negotiation. So, um, yeah, so I think it's a great time to buy personally. I think when interest rates come back down, which the Fed is currently talking about lowering the interest rates, there hasn't been any firm decisions yet, um, but they are talking about it. When those interest rates come back down, I think that's going to open up the floodgates to a lot more people are going to come off the sidelines and they're going to try to start buying again. And that's gonna be like what it was in 2022, I think. So I think if you want to be getting into multifamily, now is a great time. You're
Okay.
still just by the fact that there's just a little bit less competition, you're gonna have to be you're still gonna have to be good at underwriting and making sure that your offers are realistic because of the higher expenses that we're seeing. Um, but if you go out and buy a property today, then interest rates drop. Maybe you can refinance that and have that start producing a little more cash. Who knows? All things considered, I think now is a great time just because there's less buyers out there who want to buy.
Okay. All right. I know you also a specialist in underwriting. Where do we get started if we starting to try to practice underwriting? Where would you start at first?
Yeah, I mean, depending on what your skills are with Excel or Google Sheets, that might need to be the first step, is learning how to use those tools. Um, but if you're good with those tools, then there's a couple of different things that you could do to get started. You could go out and try to create your own underwriting template if you're wanting to. There's templates that you can buy if you want to. So like Michael Blanc has a very popular underwriting template. Um, if you are part of a mentorship program, like I've coached for the multifamily mindset, um, and we have our own proprietary underwriting template. So really, if you're wanting to do more syndicating or you wanted to buy more properties, getting really good, well versed with your tool of choice, your underwriting tool of choice is helpful. I think there's a lot of pros and cons about every underwriting tool out there. Um, but yeah, just getting yourself into a position where you can quickly look at a property and know whether or not it's a good deal and what price you need to buy it at for it to be a good deal. Getting that skill honed in is going to be that's my advice for any new aspiring underwriter. Um, I've built my own underwriting models and I've used the multifamily mindsets underwriting template, and I think there's pros and cons to both of them. So
Gotcha. Information is most important to indicate to an investor to gain their trust.
that's a good question. Um, so to get an investor's trust, really it helps the more you can know about your field, the more educated you can be about what you're doing, the better. Now, you're never going to know everything, but if you can talk the talk to an investor, if you can understand their, at least at the very least, all the lingo that we use in the terminal in the industry, things like cap rates, um, turnover, acquisitions, all those kind of words that we use in our industry. If you can be skilled in those, that's going to be able to boost investor confidence in you and your ability to operate. If you are a new syndicator, then aligning yourself with other syndicators who have experience is going to help boost investor confidence. So, not very many investors are going to want to invest with you if you're going all by yourself and you've never done it before in a syndication. So, what you can do is you can align yourself with another experienced syndicator and say, look, like me and Grant Cardone or whoever are buying this property together. I'm on my first one. This other partner of mine has done it several times. That's going to help a lot with your investors and with lenders, and a lot of people are going to want to see that there's some experience coming in. So those are two really big ones. And then I think it's always helpful to, as far as building trust with anyone, is to try to learn as much as you can about that individual. So, what is that individual investor's goals? What are they wanting to achieve with their investments? Um, and then tailoring your syndications to some extent to that specific individual, so that you don't refer an individual onto a syndication who doesn't really want to be in that syndication, right? You got to make sure that the product that you're providing as a syndicator is actually what the investor wants and needs for their specific um, what their specific needs are. So getting to know them, getting to understand their situation, and not every deal is going to be right for every investor, right? So if I am buying a property, let's say it's like a 35 unit in Delaware or something, and my investor lives in Ohio and he only wants to be buying properties in Ohio, then I shouldn't recommend my Delaware property to him, because that's not what that investor wants and needs. And so we're tailoring what we're doing to the needs and wants of our investors. And if we can do that successfully, that's going to build a lot of trust from them.
Sounds. Is there anything else you can let us know regarding syndication, market research, anything in that regards? I know it wasn't on the
Um,
question, but I'm kind of improvising here.
you're good. Yeah, so there's a lot to it. It's a great industry to be in. Um, if that's something that calls out to any of the listeners and they want to be involved in syndications, I say go ahead, get started networking, getting to know people, learning, and because there's it's a lot of fun. There's it's a great industry to be in. Like I say, multifamily syndications is what I focus on. You can syndicate a whole lot of other things. I only focus on multifamily. But yeah, it's a great industry, and I would say, we do have a uh, a government agency that regulates our industry a lot, called the Securities and Exchange Commission. It's a at the federal level, and then each state has a little bit of their own regulations. So be aware of what those regulations are so that as you're getting started with syndicating, that you're not breaking any laws. Um, and yeah, and then when it comes to market research, I think it's really great practice to get started researching your own backyard. A lot of people live in great investment markets, but they don't really know that because they've never studied it. They never looked into it. And then a lot of people also live in terrible investment markets, but again, they don't know that because they haven't gone through and studied it. So I would say get started studying your own home market, get to know it as well as you can from an investment perspective.
Okay.
Um, and you just may be living in a great market to invest in and you never really knew it. So,
So I want to thank you for joining us on Be Empowered. Any last words, any last thoughts that you want to leave us with?
well, yeah, I have to say thanks for having me on, and I'm excited for this podcast to grow and become one of the best podcasts on all of the streaming platforms. So I'm sure it will. I'm sure we will do great things with it, Zarnetta. And I'm glad to have
Thank
been
you.
invited to be a guest here.
Thank you so much.